Hello, this is Linwood Campbell. I'm the Director of Worship and Outreach for Peakland United Methodist Church, located here in Lynchburg, Virginia. I sat down recently with Ashley Steinweg, the Director of Development for Parkview Mission, to talk about one of the programs that Parkview offers, and that's Food for Thought. Ashley was directly responsible for that program starting. Ashley is also a former preschool teacher located here at our Peakland Preschool. I met her while she was in that role and have followed her remarkable progress in developing and nurturing the Food for Thought program. Now, I've taken this interview and broken it into 5 parts, which will be airing over the next 5 weeks on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. I believe you'll find these videos informative, inspiring, and at times quite revealing into the challenges of providing a service like this. Now, here's our first interview with Ashley.
My family moved here after my husband got offered a job here, and as a teacher who at the time had 3 little children, I was not teaching, and my youngest, Grayson, was 2. And I am someone who needs to do things, and I'm not great at staying home. I'm not great at being a stay-at-home mom. I love my children to death, but that's not who God made me to be. So, to make a very long story short of me looking for things to do, I really wanted to do something, and I don't know much about this community. And shortly thereafter, I got an email from Robin asking me, hey, would you be willing, to teach at the preschool? And I said, sure, because that's kind of where my kids were going to preschool, and it just kind of worked out. During that time, I met Laura Bauer, and this is really kind of where the whole story starts as Parkview. So I met Laura Bauer, who at the time was working with my husband in the emergency department, and she's like, you look like you need something to do. I'm like, do I? Do I really? And she's like, yeah. Would you consider coming and helping pack bags for children on the weekends at Bedford Hills? Bedford Hills Elementary was where all of our kids were attending at this time. And there were kids on the weekends, 66 of them, who were going home hungry. And they were identified by the admin in Bedford Hills, either by the principal or teachers or, the guidance counselor. And at that point, it was called Helping Hands, and it was through the PTO at Bedford Hills. And there were like 6 or 7 of us moms who were kind of just running the whole program. We did have some fundraising from the PTO, but really that was about it. And I was in charge of going to Walmart every week and literally kind of clearing the shelves of ramen and of macaroni and cheese and things that we could afford to feed these kids for the weekend. At that specific school, 66 kids were coming and grabbing a bag before they got on the school bus. When Laura Bauer's kids were going into middle school, she's like, well, why isn't this program at every school? Every child deserves food, deserves to have nutrition on the weekends, and why isn't this available? So at that point, that was the summer of 2017, and she was determined. As a special ed teacher, understanding the importance of feeding kids, Laura being like, Ashley, we need to make this happen. We need to make sure that everyone all of the kids in Lynchburg, not just Bedford Hills, have this resource, that have the food that they need on the weekends. So that kind of started Food for Thought under Parkview, and we have now been in existence as a 501c3 nonprofit for 7 years. So all of the growth that we have had in the last 7 years, literally started with the cafe and then the food boxes and then Food for Thought. So Food for Thought came under the umbrella of Parkview Community Mission because the mission is to part of the mission is to provide life-changing resources to our community. And food is definitely a life-changing resource. When children don't have food, they can't think, they can't process things. I always talk about how hangry I get when I'm cooking, and I'm like, come on, I'm hungry, let's eat. And if, as an adult, if I get hangry, thinking about the children that I used to teach, being a special ed teacher, it kind of, you see it so much more in behavior and not being able to remember things or process things appropriately if you don't have food. From there, we got the space over at the plaza. So now Food for Thought has its own location, and we have people who come and pack bags and deliver them. And really since then, we were granted the opportunity for a pilot program when it started. So we were allowed 50 bags in the middle schools and high schools, and that was it. And they just said, because we kept fighting for it. We're like, this needs to be in every school. We saw the importance. At that point, there were 600 kids that were identified as kids that needed food, but only 600. Linwood, we now serve over 1,200 kids each Friday for the weekend. That has doubled in the 7 years that Parkview has been a 501c3. Through COVID, through, inflation, our needs are going to continue to increase, and we're seeing that across all of our programs. So, we started at the beginning of the school year with the middle schools and high schools, 50 bags apiece. And by Christmas, the administration of Lynchburg City Schools said, okay, we get it. We see that you're capable of doing this. You're now able to serve all of the schools. So that went from 200 bags to 600 bags very quickly. We learned a lot through the process. We learned about allergies. We worked with specifically at Hutchison Learning Center. That school specifically is based on assisting students with disabilities. And oftentimes, if you have a disability, there are several food allergies that could go with that. So at one point, we had several different allergy bags that we were compiling. We worked with a nutritionist in order to do that. We labeled them appropriately, peanut-free, dairy-free, gluten-free, and we still do that, but not as much because our numbers have increased so much. It's kind of like, with funding and what we're able to get, it varies, right? So, so once they kind of said, here, you can serve our whole entire community because we see that it's a need, those numbers just continued to grow. And really, when we talk to people, we don't have direct contact with the students who are being fed or the families, because part of our goal here at Parkview is to provide these resources with dignity. We can hand out boxes of food of the exact same thing every week, and it's just feeding people, but that's not necessarily providing them the dignity. So presently with our elementary schools, they still receive food bags. At an elementary level, it's kind of, you're not necessarily able to understand the needs that you might have nutritionally over the weekend. So we do provide elementary school kids with bags still. At the middle school and high schools, we have pivoted and gone to a pantry style. So those children can choose what foods they are willing to eat, and they're willing and able to prepare for themselves over the weekend. With both situations, whether it's a bag or a pantry, all we know is the number. A school fills in a form. A contact person at the school will fill in a form. We need 12 bags, and 12 bags is what we deliver. And then they're responsible for handing out the bags. The reason for that is back to the dignity. It's if they don't have the choice, but it's like the discretion. They're not going to be ridiculed for being a poor kid or receiving a food bag. Back to the things that we've learned along with allergies. At first, Laura and I came up with a system of, well, we'll rotate menus so they don't get sick of the same things. So we still rotate menus. However, we were going to color code the bags with the appropriate meals in them. So the first week of the month will be a blue bag. Second month will be a red bag, and then pink and purple. Well, we didn't understand that gang colors are a real thing here. Whether you know it, whether you want to believe that or not, we had children not taking bags because of the color of the bag that it was in. So while our kids are dealing with hunger, they're now concerned about, well, I really need that food, but I don't want it in that bag because of the color. Because people might think I'm part of the Bloods or the Crips if I take a blue bag and not a red bag, or a red bag and not a blue bag. All of the things that our children in our community are facing, how can we help them on the basic level? So again, all of the things that we don't know unless we try, and whether, pivot and try something else to make sure that our kids are getting food.
Peakland has a great relationship with Parkview. Some of us help deliver food for Thought. Some of us help with the Parkview Cafe on Wednesday nights, and Pastor Joe is on the board of Parkview. Now, we also have wonderful relationships with a number of other area support agencies. In the course of the 2024 calendar year, it's my hope to be able to give you an inside look into these agencies and how Peakland is involved in helping. And hey, how you can get involved as well. Peakland's desire to serve God is fully stated in our vision statement, which is reaching out, serving all, and extending God's table. If you want to know more about Peakland United Methodist Church, please visit our website. That's peaklandumc.org, or email Pastor Joe Kalis. That's peaklandpastor@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.